Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Lightyear, making $18 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $89 million and a worldwide total of $153 million. So the turnout for this weekend was quite surprising as it suffered from a massive 64% drop. And I say massive because this is an animated family film, which throughout the post-theater closure era have shown to be quite on top in terms of second week drop-offs, and it just drop-offs and holds altogether. They could just hold within 49, maybe even 35% from their second weekends, and then so on and so forth. But this movie suffered a drop-off so big that it was actually bigger than the second weekend drop-off for the Bob's Burgers movie, and that was a movie intended for older audiences. This is quite surprising, to say the least. It seems that word of mouth is not doing this film any favors. Many people are probably saying that this is not up to the Pixar standards, and that's probably what's holding it back, although it will be able to surpass 100 million domestically by the end of next week, and it should get to 200 million worldwide, which would be enough to just make back its initial $200 million budget. It's just still not enough to help this movie out. This is quite the disappointment, to say the least, and this was probably the only real weekend that could have helped the movie out, as it is a very crowded summer for animated films, especially this upcoming week where we have one new major animated film on the way. More on that later, but that film is certainly going to steal a lot of this film's audience. So while it might be able to stay in the summer box office top 10 list for sure, I think it's going to be on the very lower end of the scale, and while it's probably going to become one of the bigger animated films of the post-theater closure, it's still not enough to qualify it as a success in the same ways that Sing 2 or even The Bad Guys were able to be double their budgets back, both domestically and worldwide. So yeah, quite the surprising turnout for this movie. It doesn't look like it's going to be one of the bigger Pixar films of recent memory, which sucks because while I didn't think it was up to the Pixar standard, I thought it was a relatively good movie. But the fact that it's not doing nearly as well as it should is honestly quite sad, especially with this being Pixar's grand return to theaters and it just turning out poorly such as this. We'll see how it does for the rest of the summer, but as far as things go right now, it seems like this might be the last time it appears in the top 5 domestic box office results, and it might not even be able to make half of what other Pixar films did prior to this film. Number 4 was The Black Phone, opening with $23 million this weekend domestically and $36 million worldwide. So despite opening on the lower end of the top 5 and not really becoming like one of the bigger blockbuster opening weekends we have seen in the past summer, this film was able to exceed expectations and actually become a box office success in its opening weekend, as many people weren't expecting this movie to do all that well. But I thought, given the marketing and the buzz and the very strong reviews, it could overperform, and it certainly did. Thanks to its cheap budget of $18.8 million, the film has already made back its entire budget, and it's probably already doubled that. I just don't want to do the math right now, but whatever. I'm certain that it already has done that thanks to both the domestic and worldwide numbers. This is a very solid turnout for this movie. I'm certain it's going to play out as very solid counter programming amidst all of the other summer blockbusters, as there's really no other horror films, at least big major ones, until probably Nope, when that comes out next July. But it seems that this film is on the right path at the moment. Reviews were really strong, as I said earlier, and in terms of horror films, word of mouth seems to be doing this movie a lot of favors. It got a B+ on Cinema Score, and this is where we have to bend the rules a bit because horror films judged by audiences on a very different metric. So a B plus for a horror film on Cinema Score is much better than a B plus for like a standard blockbuster. So this film is already doing well with audiences. I think this movie's going to play out very well. Well, once again, I don't think it's going to become like the next big blockbuster. It's certainly not going to do like It numbers, but I definitely think this movie has a shot at becoming quite a sleeper hit in the same vein as something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, or even Scream 5 from earlier this year. Speaking of Scream 5, it actually landed on a list involving Scream 5, as this is the 5th biggest opening weekend for a horror film released post-theater closure, topping Candyman, sitting behind The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, once again Scream 5, A Quiet Place Part 2, and Halloween Kills. So that's also a good sign. What more else is there to say? This is a very decent opening weekend. I don't think we are going to see it in the top 5 for much longer. Maybe next week, and then it's probably going to fall out of it, linger out of the top 5, but that shouldn't still disparage how well this movie has done already. The fact that it was already able to make its entire budget back, and it's looking like it's going to quintuple that for the rest of the summer, is very promising. Not a bad opening at all for the Black Phone. Number 3 was Jurassic World Dominion, making $26 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $303 million and a worldwide total of $749 million. So while it had a better hold than last weekend, and it became the 4th film of this year to surpass $300 million domestically, which is very good, and it's already made so much money, I'm certain these complaints that I'm going to have with this movie is not really going to be any sort of heartbreak on the filmmakers due to how successful this movie has been already. I gotta be honest, I think this is definitely the point where the film's gonna start slowing down, as already it is now starting to fall behind Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom's domestic total, as at this point in its run, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom made $333 million domestically, and this film is falling behind 30 million short, which is something very noticeable I saw with this movie that I feel like not too many people are understanding. I don't think this is going to crack 400 million, unfortunately, because once again, I think this movie is slowing down. Maybe it was because it was front loaded opening weekend, or maybe the word has gotten out that it's not a very good movie. I don't know, but I definitely think that this might be the first of this Jurassic World series to not crack 400 million domestically, and it's probably going to fall a bit behind the Batman's domestic total. But even with those things, like I said earlier, this is really not going to affect this movie's huge success at all. It's already made 700 million worldwide. It's certain to crack 800 million by next week. It's Universal's biggest movie of the year right now, and I can't see any reason why they wouldn't be happy about how well this movie has done thus far. It's really just been quite a big hit as of recently, and there's no sign that it's not going to stop being a hit. While it may slow down, especially with a stiffer competition heading our way into theaters in July, this film has just done so well that even me saying these things isn't enough to stop this movie from being as successful as it has been. Once again, do think it's going to slow down a bit, but it's not really going to affect the film's success that much. Number 2 was Top Gun Maverick, making $29 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $520 million and a worldwide total of $1 billion. Oh yeah, you heard that right, folks. Not only did Top Gun Maverick manage to surpass Doctor Strange and become the highest grossing movie of the year, both domestically and worldwide, but it has now officially become the first film of the year to surpass both $500 million domestically and $1 billion worldwide. This is astonishing. I know I've said this time and time again, but this film has just become a phenomenon that has just defied the laws of physics. I really was underselling or utilizing the strengths of the marketing for this film when doing my predictions for the highest grossing films of the summer, obviously, because even I, with my sheer optimism for movies doing well, was not really certain of how well this movie has done. It is Paramount's most successful film since Transformers Age of Extinction all the way back in 2014. Just think about that. And it was able to dethrone Marvel, probably the biggest film studio of Hollywood at the moment, with billion-dollar hits after billion-dollar hits. The fact that this is the movie that has crossed these milestones and legged out to this degree to become as successful as it has been is something quite revolutionary that we really don't see. We didn't even really see that back in 2019. The closest we could get to that was probably John Wick Chapter 3, when that managed to dethrone Avengers Endgame. But yeah, this is absolutely incredible. I am beyond flabbergasted in the best way possible. And to show you how successful this movie was this weekend, when the Sunday estimates came in, it was pretty much tied with the number one film, which we'll get to in a moment, with that. And it didn't take until the Monday results till we got the actual final results that we are showing you on this video. But yeah, the fact that it was basically a tie with the numbers going above or below between these movies shows how neck and neck and strong this film has held for the past couple weeks, and how it has been able to maintain its core audience. I don't know what else to say. This movie has just once again defied all expectations and become the biggest hit ever. We'll see what can even come close to this film's total this summer. I do not think anything is going to surpass this movie. For the summer, we'll see whatever can manage to surpass it in the rest of the year. We still got a lot of other movies on the way, but yeah, man, Top Gun Maverick. It's the summer of Top Gun at the moment, and as someone who loved this movie, I couldn't be happier about that. Props to the filmmakers and everyone who worked on this movie. Job well done. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, and that was Elvis, opening with $31 million this weekend domestically and $51 million worldwide. So as I was discussing with Top Gun Maverick, the numbers were very close this weekend, as the top spot was pretty much a tie between this and Top Gun Maverick. The numbers kept flip-flopping all around until the actuals came out, and it was Elvis who sung his way all the way to the number one spot, which is a very decent opening weekend, to say the least. It only costed $85 million, so that's a pretty good sign. I think it's definitely going to make its budget back probably by the end of this week, or maybe beginning of the week after, for sure. And I think it's got enough good word of mouth to at least make its budget back domestically. The fact that it was able to win a couple of the older audiences back into theaters is also a really good sign. This is the biggest opening weekend for a film catered to that demographic, topping Downton Abbey: A New Era, which is a very good sign. Obviously not to the degree of Top Gun Maverick, but let's be real, it wasn't going to do that. But yeah, this music biopic starring one of the kings of rock and roll, that's over 2 hours long, and starring Tom Hanks in a very peculiar role, to say the least. We'll just leave it at that. That was marketed to an older audience, being able to take the number one spot in the summer of blockbusters is a very solid opening weekend, and nothing to disparage about, because once again, this is a demographic that has been the most hesitant on returning to theaters, and the fact that it was able to at least win the weekend is a very solid sign for theater recovery. However, the real question is how well it's going to do after this, because I said Downton Abbey also opened to a decent opening weekend, but that film quickly took a hit in its second weekend and fell down the charts. And I'm not saying the same thing is definitely going to happen with this movie. Word of mouth seems to be doing okay with it, but I could see it potentially happening given all the blockbusters hitting theaters this way. This movie could get affected by a number of these movies for sure that could cause it to take at least one major hit in its theatrical run. So this is definitely something we're gonna have to keep an eye out on, because I don't think the statement on whether this is a success or a flop, sorry about that, are really set in stone as of yet. Once again, things are a bit topsy-turvy when it comes to the older audiences at the moment. We were able to win them with Top Gun Maverick again, but the real question is if we will still be able to keep winning them over. So we're gonna have to wait and see, play the waiting game with this one. It's really a very odd movie, to say the least, in terms of predicting how well it's going to do in the summer. But as far as the opening weekend goes, this is a very decent opening weekend, and I look forward to seeing where it goes from here. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we only have one new major release, and that is Minions: The Rise of Gru. So first off, this movie actually has a bit of significance to it, as this is the last film that was supposed to be released in the year of 2020 finally being released officially in theaters. And let me just say, if you really think about way back when, back in the dark ages, where it seemed like nothing was going to come out, so much speculation about what was going to happen in the movie industry, people wondering if streaming was the next big thing, if movie theaters were dying and wondering when these movies are coming out, to now finally all of these movies are coming out, movies are making bank at the box office, theaters are back and open and bigger and better than ever, is really showing of how times have changed and how things are slowly but surely moving back into the way things used to operate back when there wasn't such a thing as a pandemic. But in regards to this movie, I think this movie's got a fair shot, because, believe it or not, this may surprise you, but I think the kids in this nation like those Minions a lot. So let's just get this out of the way. Obviously, the majority of children in America right now are probably begging their parents to take them to see this movie, as these films have been critic proof since, well, that's probably the second Despicable Me, as this is probably going to, while not do as big as the first Minions or maybe even Despicable Me 2, but I think it's going to open on par or maybe even a little bit over the third Despicable Me, as the marketing has been everywhere, given that it is an Illumination film. So much promotion and ads I've seen for this movie. I also think the buzz is really strong with this one. Lots of families, lots of just even regular people are interested and excited to see this, and given the bar Lightyear set with its opening weekend, I can see this kind of overperforming and beating that film's opening weekend to become the biggest opening weekend for an animated film post theater closure, and maybe even the biggest animated film of the year, because thanks to Spider-Verse and Illumination's own Mario movie moving to 2022, what else is it going to compete against? DC League of Super Pets? Paws of Fury? I don't know. Regardless, I still think we're going to see a very solid opening weekend for this film, and it's surely going to be one that really raises the bar for animated family films of the post-theater closure era, because whether you like it or not, as I said already, the kids definitely love those Minions, and I see no reason why this movie won't not really crush it, but certainly do very well this 4th of July weekend. But we will truly see how well this movie does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied? Unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.